Imagine this. A young black man leaves his home one night, and within an hour, he's dead at the hands of police. His mother, heartbroken, furious, takes the fight to court. But when the truth finally comes out, the entire courtroom gasps. Stay with me, because this story is not what it seems. 20-year-old Jamal Harris was no criminal. He was a college sophomore, studying computer science, with dreams of becoming a software engineer. His friends described him as the guy who always made everyone laugh, the one who never left without checking if you were okay. To his mother, Denise Harris, Jamal wasn't just a son. He was her hope, her pride, the reason she worked 2 jobs. She'd raised him on her own since he was 5. Every birthday, every graduation, every small win, they celebrated together. On the night of his death, Jamal wore his favorite gray hoodie, headphones in his ears, sneakers barely broken in. He told his mom he was heading to the corner store for snacks. He never made it back. Minutes later, police pulled Jamal over. The official report said he matched the description of a robbery suspect. Officers claimed Jamal resisted, that he looked dangerous. But witnesses nearby told a different story. Jamal was unarmed, scared, with his hands up. And then 5 shots. By the time paramedics arrived, Jamal was gone. His mother, Denise, rushed to the scene, only to be held back by tape, sirens, and cold, expressionless officers. She begged them to let her see her boy, but they pushed her away. She collapsed on the pavement, screaming his name. Weeks later, the police department called it a justified shooting. The officers were cleared of wrongdoing, no charges filed. Denise couldn't breathe. How could the system label her son as a threat when all he carried was a bag of chips and a receipt in his pocket? She felt the weight of every black mother who had buried a child because of police bullets. But unlike so many cases that faded into silence, Denise refused to let Jamal's story be forgotten. She hired a civil rights attorney and filed a lawsuit against the department. The fight was only beginning. Denise knew she couldn't bring Jamal back, but she could demand justice. For months, she sat in meetings with her lawyer, gathering evidence, collecting eyewitness statements, digging into police records. Every sleepless night fueled her determination. Every tear turned into steel. The city tried to intimidate her. Anonymous calls told her to drop it. Reporters painted her as an angry single mother looking for a payout. But Denise wasn't after money. She wanted truth. And soon, the courtroom became her battleground. The trial opened on a rainy Monday. The courtroom buzzed with cameras, reporters, and protesters outside holding signs, "Justice for Jamal." Denise sat in the front row, clutching a photo of her son. Across from her sat the officers, calm, stone-faced, confident. The department's lawyer painted Jamal as a dangerous young man who made poor choices. They claimed the officers had no choice. But Denise's attorney fought back. He showed body cam footage frame by frame. He revealed that Jamal was unarmed, that his hands were raised, that one officer even muttered, "He looks like trouble," moments before pulling the trigger. The courtroom murmured. Gasps filled the air. For the first time, Denise saw cracks in the department's defense. On the 3rd day of trial, Denise's attorney called a surprise witness, a whistleblower from inside the police department. Nervous, sweating, looking over his shoulder, he testified under oath that the officers' reports had been altered. Critical footage from the night of Jamal's death had been deliberately deleted. But he didn't stop there. He claimed the order came from higher up, not just the officers, but their captain, who wanted the case buried before it could become national news. The courtroom froze. The judge demanded clarification. The whistleblower repeated it. The department covered it up. Denise felt her heart pound in her chest. The truth was finally surfacing. But at what cost? As the judge ordered an immediate investigation, the officers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Reporters scrambled out of the courtroom to break the news. Denise sat in stunned silence, gripping Jamal's photo. For the first time in months, she felt hope flicker inside her. Hope that the world would finally see her son not as a suspect, but as a victim. But just as the gavel came down, a voice from the back of the courtroom shouted something that made everyone turn. And in that single moment, the entire case took a darker, more dangerous turn.
The man who spoke wasn't just a bystander. He stood up, trembling, and announced, "I was there. I saw what really happened." All eyes turned. The man introduced himself as Marcus Williams, a former store clerk from the same neighborhood. He hadn't come forward before, out of fear for his life. Marcus claimed he had hidden surveillance footage from his store, just a few feet from where Jamal was killed, footage the police had tried to confiscate. The judge ordered an immediate review. Within hours, the video was brought in, and when the footage played, the courtroom gasped. On the screen, Jamal was seen walking calmly, holding a small bag from the store. The police pulled up, lights flashing. He raised his hands instantly. The officers shouted conflicting commands. Jamal froze, terrified. Then one officer whispered to another, "This is the guy. End it." And without hesitation, 5 shots rang out. There was no struggle, no resistance, just execution. Denise buried her face in her hands as the truth finally burned through the lies. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed out to break the story. Protesters outside roared louder than ever. But the defense tried one last desperate move. They claimed the video was doctored, unreliable. Yet when digital forensic experts verified it on the spot, the judge's face hardened. The captain and the officers involved were ordered into custody immediately. Gasps filled the room as handcuffs clicked shut. For the first time in months, Denise felt her son's voice echo through the halls of justice. The trial dragged on for weeks. Denise attended every day, her son's photo in her hands like a weapon of truth. She heard the officers try to justify the unjustifiable. She heard the department scramble to cover their tracks. But piece by piece, the lies crumbled. Witnesses stepped forward, records surfaced, a chain of corruption unraveled, from the officers on the street all the way up to the precinct captain. Denise wasn't just fighting for Jamal. She was exposing a system that thought it could bury the truth. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. The jury filed in, tense, pale-faced. The foreman stood. On charges of wrongful death, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice, the officers were found guilty. The captain, too, guilty. Denise gasped. Tears streamed down her face. The courtroom exploded with cheers, cries, and chants of justice for Jamal. For the first time, she felt like her son's voice had been heard. Before sentencing, the captain requested to speak. His voice was calm, almost cold. He admitted the cover-up was real, but then he said something that silenced the room. "You think this ends with me? You have no idea how deep it goes." The judge struck his words from the record, but Denise couldn't forget them. Was this really justice, or just the beginning of uncovering something much darker? Denise walked out of the courthouse that day, surrounded by supporters. She clutched Jamal's photo, whispering, "We did it, baby. They heard you." But in the back of her mind, the captain's words echoed like a warning. Her fight had shaken one courtroom, but what if the corruption stretched beyond? Denise realized she might not just be Jamal's mother anymore. she might become a voice for every family silenced by injustice. So I want to ask you, do you believe true justice was served, or was this just the tip of the iceberg? Let me know in the comments. And if you believe stories like Jamal's deserve to be told, subscribe now, because we're not done exposing the truth.